Hey, how's it going? I know, this is much different from the other videos on this channel, but seeing as it's been, geez, 6 years since I started this channel, and I maybe have like 3 videos that aren't just random gameplay, I think it's about time to change that. So I guess a proper introduction is in order. Hi, I'm Lyle, the broke piece of garbage the channel name refers to. Besides uploading random crap here, I occasionally stream on Twitch. Maybe drop by sometime on the random chance I decide to actually go live. It'll definitely help if you have trouble falling asleep. So, as the title of the video suggests, this is going to be my history with my favorite video game franchise, and the reason why I started the channel in the first place, Monster Hunter. I love the series so much that I tried to get anything Monster Hunter related here in South Africa, including the physical copies released in the West, and no one is missing. We'll get to that. Also, I won't be talking about the mobile games. We'll probably keep that for another video. We'll see how things go. The year is 2010. I just got my first PSP after not having any gaming systems since the PS1. A good friend suggested I get a game by the name of Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. I remember seeing the cover in stores all the time, but ignored it because of how generic the name was. After constant nagging from said friend, I told him I'd get it for Christmas, and as luck would have it, come December, all copies from every store and website vanished. Well shit, guess I'll have to use Media Go. After waiting like a day for it to download, I finally got to start the game. My friend told me the game isn't easy and challenged me to hit G rank, since he thought I wouldn't get further solo. How hard could it actually be? So I booted up the game, created my character, watched my character get one-shot by an unknown monster, then was thrown into the game. I ran around talking to the other villagers, trying to figure out what to do, since the game doesn't outright tell you things. That or I didn't pay attention. I just wanted to fight the big bosses. After playing a while, and nothing interesting happening, I shelved the game. I'll get back to it after putting time into Dissidia. A month passes, and I decide maybe it's time to give the game another shot. And combat started to click. Yes, I played Longsword. I was a starter weed back then. Monsters like Kutku, Tigrex, Nagakuga, and others were fun fights. Learning the patterns was probably the most satisfying thing in the game, since that knowledge was what got you through hunts and helped keep you engaged. Funny enough, I never understood how armor skills worked, so I just wore full sets. With all the good and bad fights, I brute forced my way to G rank, and was then told by my friend to try and make it to Yugenlos. I struggled my way up to that, even encountering a glitch on the dual Black Diablos quest, where the second one got stuck on the cliff and was stuck in a walk cycle. Only reason I finished the quest, and with 5 seconds to spare. I eventually got to Yugenlos and couldn't beat it for the longest time, but the day I did, I remember it fondly. I had to have surgery, and I didn't want to possibly die having not beat Yugenlos. I was up all night trying to kill it. Hours passed, but I finally did it. 2 hours before I had to wake up to get ready for the hospital. It was fucking worth it. Once I was out of the hospital, I spent my time recovering, playing more, working on trying to get better, and showing friends what Monster Hunter was like, by letting them play the dual Rajang quest. I'm an asshole. So yeah, no one wanted to get into the series for that. A couple years passed, and I made a friend that had a PSP, and got him into Freedom Unite. I taught him how things worked, and pretty much carried him to Yugenlos. It was a great time. Local co-op is honestly the best part of the game, and to this day, I still say it's the best way to play Monster Hunter. We kept playing even when we got our Vitas, although my friend didn't want to go through the hassle of transferring his save, so I had to carry him a second time. About a year later, a friend showed me 3 Ultimate on his 3DS. I tried it out, and while it was good, I felt it was too easy. So I just went back to Freedom Unite, still hoping Monster Hunter comes to the Vita. Some more time passed, and then I saw the announcement for Monster Hunter 4, and it was going to be on the 3DS. Well, guess it's time to start saving up for one. I eventually got myself a 3DS XL the year before 4 Ultimate launched, so I still had some time. Picked up 3 Ultimate to pass the time until 4 Ultimate's release. I set a challenge for myself as well. I won't play multiplayer until I finish the game solo, which I do with all the games now unless it's really pushing for multiplayer. Pretty much a sucking world. Which wasn't that bad honestly. 3 Ultimate and its changes did make the game easier, so yeah, kinda breezed through the game. Funny enough, I only found out about Longsword's Spirit Round Slash by accident after about 100 hours in, when I accidentally tapped R after the 3rd Spirit Slash. 3 Ultimate had a lot of great stuff to it, especially the monsters. Lagiacrus, Brachydios, Sinoga. No, not you, Giganox. Fuck off. One feature that 3 had that needs to come back though is underwater combat.
Hello? I'm under the water. Can you please save me?
It took some getting used to, but it was really satisfying going up to Plesiot on his home turf after all the shit he caused me in Freedom Unite. Things have advanced enough to where I'm sure they could make it work in a future game. But yeah, 3 Ultimate has some great memories too. Playing multiplayer all night, proving someone wrong, and you can fully craft and upgrade Dia Morales' gear in a few hours solo, when he thought it will take a month since he had to play online to get it done. Watching Devil Joe eat its own tail, and no, I didn't use meats because I didn't know that was a thing at the time. And let's not forget the Nagakugas in the game. We had regular, green and Lucent, and damn did Lucent actually bring a challenge. There is one major issue with 3 Ultimate though, and it still pisses me off to this day. We didn't get the JoJo gear from the Super Brachydios event, just reskinned versions of them. I still want my crazy diamond hammer, you mother. Release day for 4 Ultimate finally arrived. My 3DS was sent in for repairs because of dead pixels on the top screen, so a friend decided to leave his 3DS outside my door when I wasn't home because he knew how much I wanted to play day one. I decided to switch from Longsword to Insect Glaive when I saw the trailers, since the weapon looked fun, and it really was. Charge Blade was crazy, but my tiny brain couldn't get guard points right. Mounting was a new addition, and it was a bit broken, especially with the Star Knight set, but it was a great addition. The only thing that sucked was if your teammates kept attacking during a mount, it will throw you off if the monster flinches. So you had to worry about that and the position of the monster prior to mount, as if you were too close to a boundary, it won't land a mount. And if you were near the zone barrier, you'll get thrown into the next area instead. One thing that did surprise me though, was how it implemented its story. Monster Hunter was never a story-focused series. It was pretty much your story, or expanded a bit, with you and your team traveling the lands, and running into one of the best flagships in the series, Gor Magala. In previous games, you pretty much stumble across the game's flagship monster while out on a different quest, or had Gor attack your group while traveling, and you had to fend it off. It helps set up your goal, while still being your story. I won't speak much more on this, as I feel 4 Ultimate is a definite must-play, especially if you're new to the series and want to give the older titles a chance. A fun mechanic that Gor brought was Frenzy, which infects other monsters and makes them more violent. It can even infect you, and you have to fight to overcome it, which then boosts your crit rate. If you fail, you won't have the red health, and any frenzy attacks will result in extra damage. Later comes Apex monsters. No, not that Apex. Fuck off, Rise. These monsters are the ones that survive the frenzy, and results in some brutal fights. Remember Rajang throwing a branch or a rock at you? Now he throws mountains, or just extremely large boulders. The only annoying part of the Apex hunts was that you needed specific items to let you actually land attacks without deflecting, and they were timed between uses. One of the other disappointments with the game though was Seregios, or Steve according to the community manager at the time. A really good design and aggressive monster. He ended up being a disappointment as the fight wasn't that satisfying. What wasn't disappointing though was the weapons. They had a skill that could sharpen your melee weapons or reload your ranged ones by dodging. One thing I miss is the variety of monsters. We had the regular types, but we also had giant insects, toads, and marshmallow sharks. Gogmazios and Dalamadur were some of the better spectacle fights in the series, and we had the beast that was Molten Tigrex. Regular Tigrex not aggressive enough? Fuck it. Give him explosions. Even the post-game support was good, as it brought back the 3 Fatalis. So yeah, go play for Ultimate. This isn't a request. Some months pass, and a new trailer pops up. A new Monster Hunter already? What I saw was some absolute weeb shit, and I was loving it. Monster Hunter Cross was going to be an anniversary title, with a ton of monsters returning, and some anime-esque moves to spice things up. The hype was real, but then I realized the spin-off games generally don't get localized. The thought of importing a Japanese 3DS endgame was out of the question due to the cost and risk of going through our customs, so I had to let that dream slowly die. Until March 2016, Monster Hunter Cross was coming to the West as Monster Hunter Generations. The hype was back and the squad was excited to try out the anime bullshit. While waiting on release, I picked up Pokemon Omega Ruby, which ended up breaking my 3DS. Out of warranty and out of money, I was lucky enough that someone at the local distributor said I should still send it in to have it looked at as a staff request, but it was too expensive to repair and I was told it'd be cheaper to just buy a new one. I was lucky though, since I got sent a replacement system, one they used to take to events. It was scratched up, but worked perfectly. And they made sure to send it to me in a Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate pouch. Release day rolls around, and as usual, I sat with the game for hours on end, finishing quests solo before I could play with friends. The styles and arts were mostly great. Longsword was back to being good, with a crazy counter, and Instiglaive could be more aggressive by launching you forward instead of straight up. And if you like the felines, you can play as one. The Fated Four were great flagships. Well, 3 of them anyway. The deviant monsters were awesome, but the system for the gear was nothing but pure grind. One thing that annoyed me from the start though was the amount of padding. Besides the high monster count, they mentioned having a ton of quests as well, but so many were gathering quests. Anyway, aside from that, there was so much to do in the game, and even had great collabs, including some anime stuff which we never got in the localized versions before. During this time, I upgraded to a new 3DS XL, which led to pain. In case you haven't played Generations on the 3DS, the game save is stored on the memory card, and not the cartridge like other games. I picked up a slight fault on the C nub like a month in, so I sent it in for repairs. They didn't want to repair the system, and wanted to credit the store to get a new one. And at that point, even getting that system was painful, because the distributor was trying to discontinue it before the launch of the Switch. I asked them to just send it back to me, but was ignored. After like a month of them ignoring me, I was getting annoyed. So I unlinked my account, then logged back into my older 3DS, so I could just start over by the time I get the credit. I was pretty much done with the game aside from 2 event quests, and had to start over. 2 days later, these motherfuckers replied to me saying it's a grey market system. Turns out the store imported the system on their own because the official distributor wasn't bringing in more consoles, and was sending it back as is. Got my 3DS back a day later, everything still the same. But since I unlinked my account, all my saves on it will be lost to transfer it back. So besides having to restart my digital games again, I had to play all the filler quests in Generations again. I tried to get back to where I was, but it got to me, so after a while of trying to rush, I just shelved the game. On the bright side, having to use the old 3DS, I didn't realize it was initially an Animal Crossing bundle, and the game wasn't claimed. So I would have lost out on it if I didn't go back to that system. So I claimed it and played it on the new 3DS when I wasn't playing Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate again. There was also an unexpected game announced, a Monster Hunter RPG. It looked like their version of Pokemon. Looked amazing, but there was no way we were gonna get it. Pretty sure Capcom said there was no plans to localize it either. I had to settle on sideloading the mobile game, which was a match 3 gacha game. It did have multiplayer though, which was nice. Time passes, and Nintendo hits everyone with a surprise. They will localize the game. This was great news, especially after Pokemon Sun and Moon with disappointments. The demo released and I played the hell out of it. Placed my pre-order as soon as I could. Release day comes along and damn was I excited. got the game plus an art book. The art book had some codes for some special monsters. As expected with a Monster Hunter game, I played it for hours. The game was amazing and I found myself playing for longer sessions than the main games. They absolutely nailed the game and sold the bond between you and your team better than Pokemon. The monsters were so wild and acted on their own, but as you fight, you build up a meter to issue commands and also deliver a special move. Meter management helped show you working together. Pokemon? They say certain moves are performed because of a bond between you and your Pokemon, but it's just an item you can slap on them and they can use it immediately after hatching or catching. Back to stories though. Combat was turn-based and you fight alongside your monsters. You are pretty much support though. You don't have all the weapon classes available from the main games, but 4 with their own skills. The combat system was pretty much rock paper scissors, with power, speed and tech. Attacks can clash, and the winning attack does more damage and decreases the damage you and your monsters take. You can even survive attacks with it. Winning 3 clashes in a row will topple the monster, allowing a free turn. There's also a minigame. When the enemy HP hits the 50% mark, complete that for extra damage and a major boost to the kinship gauge. There was even a combo system for your character for performing certain attacks in a row. The game had an engaging story that kept you hooked, and a solid endgame. An absolute must play, even if you have to get the phone version. But there was issues. It was another game that didn't save to the cartridge. We never got the amiibos for the game. If you did import them, you could use them, but that was expensive. But the main issue with the game was that Nintendo just abandoned the fucking thing. DLC was expected, and we had some good stuff to earn. The PvP battles resulted in special monsters, and there was quests to hunt powerful monsters like Molten Tigrex, but Nintendo stopped pushing them out when Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon released. DLC stopped, and there was still stuff that the Japanese version had to be localized. They never addressed it, and Capcom couldn't say anything because Nintendo was in charge of the localization. And it gets worse. The Japanese version got an update that added more monsters, more storage for monsters, cosmetic options to dress up like some characters from the anime, plus a second route to the endgame tower that added the villains from the anime. We never got this update. The game was just left in the cold. Despite all this, I still absolutely love the game. Got friends who never played Monster Hunter before to play stories, and they were hooked. Some even moved on to the main series because of it. So play stories. The phone version goes on sale quite regularly these days, so check it out. E3 rolls around. There was talks of a big Monster Hunter reveal. Ain't no way this will be true, especially for what was leaked, since quite a bit will need to be changed to adapt to an open world formula. Then Sony's presentation comes around. The trailer comes up. That forest looks nice. Wait, that's a great sword on the character. That's a Monster Hunter style logo on the sword. Oh fuck, it's fucking happening. The title comes on screen and hype levels fucking explode. The game was a massive jump from previous entries, and while I wasn't a fan of some of the new monster designs, it looked amazing. But now, since I didn't want to wait longer for the PC version, it also meant I'd have to spend more money to build a PC. I didn't know much back then. I picked up a PS4 on sale and placed my pre-order for the Steelbook version. Despite some issues, the Monster Hunter team absolutely knocked it out of the park. The combat was better, movement was better, monster AI was better, events out the ass, and even some collabs implemented into the game's story, such as Geralt from the hit game Fortnite. With all that good, there were some annoying parts with the game, such as the terrible equipment designs.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Streamstone grind, and making Monster Roars sound more generic. Having just one set of quests for solo and multiplayer made it a hassle to play multiplayer with friends, as they had to watch the unskippable cutscenes before you were able to join. Despite all this, World ended up being the most time I ever put into a Monster Hunter game, being over 800 hours. They supported the hell out of the game with title updates, adding in monsters and new gear. And while it started pushing paid DLC, it could be ignored for the most part. Eventually we get the announcement for the expansion for Worlds, called Iceborne, bringing in G rank, now called Master rank, a new snow map, new and returning monsters, expanded weapon movesets, and introduced the Clutch Claw. Base World was amazing. I'm obviously placing my order for this steelbook. Release day comes around, and I didn't play, because my copy was delayed a week. When I finally got the game, I tried to make up for lost time with the little free time I had at that point, and god damn was it a great time. Although the Clutch Claw was the biggest issue a lot of people had with the game, it was fun to have monsters go headfirst into walls for a free topple, or force you to rage to capitalize on Agitator. It tried to push another mechanic, weakening monster parts to deal extra damage for a limited time. Weapons had different attacks while using the Clutch Claw. Light weapons would drop sling ammo, and heavy weapons would soften an area for extra damage. They did later add a skill for weapons to do both. Monsters essentially became damage sponges if you didn't weaken and attack that specific part. While not a major issue in multiplayer, where players can always keep the soft spots up while the rest of the team continue attacking, solo play became more of a chore. Wasn't the end of the world, but just got annoying since I mainly played solo. Let's get back to the good the game did though. A massive improvement was your new hub town, Celiana, a smaller and much easier to navigate hub with everything you need to access before going out on a quest. Endgame was better with the guiding lands, a massive map with every type of biome that you can increase the level of, better items and more monsters to hunt. More events and collabs such as Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield from the hit game Fortnite. I'm sorry I reused the joke. The title updates came back swinging too, bringing back monsters like Rajang, who threw some older players off as he had the ability to punish players if they had him topple near a wall, and confirmed Rajang get their power from eating kitten horns. Raging Becky came back with a vengeance. Furious Rajang upped his aggression. Xeno Jiva finally matured into Safi Jiva, and that fight brought some excellent gear. The final updates were things got interesting though. First, we got the return of Alatreon, the chaotic dragon that controlled multiple elements. At that point, it was the hardest fight in the game since it required you to use elemental weapons to pass its DPS check, and most people who played raw only didn't bother building more sets. Hell, I was one of them. While Iceborne did push focus onto elemental damage, it wasn't necessary, and as much as I hate DPS checks, it was still a great fight that put everyone through its paces. Until the last update, motherfucking Fatalis was back. The legendary Black Dragon returned to cause devastation. The trailer for him even showed him possibly killing off a character. To fight this Dragon of Legend, you had to fight another Alatreon, although it was weaker. Then you were able to start the main event, and what a main event it was. From the start, you can feel the malicious aura. You had to be on your toes because Fatalis doesn't let up. You had to learn his moves and attack when the time was right. One of the best moments is raising a giant metal barrier to protect you while you watch as it slowly melts from Fatalis' flames and starts the final phase of the fight. If you manage to break his horns, his flames would be weaker, but don't think he'll be a pushover. You both give it everything you got until one is left standing, and I never beat him. I came close many times. I could never finish Fatalis off. I didn't want to do it online either, as I wanted to prove myself and not end up being carried. But after many tries, I put the controller down. The game beat me. I wasn't mad. It was a great experience I won't forget. Sadly, I won't be able to return to it anytime soon, as I sold my PS4, but I backed up my saves just in case. Maybe I'll get the PC version one day to start over. In 2020, just before lockdowns took effect, I picked up a Switch. Not so much to play Generations Ultimate, but just to have another handheld to cycle between with this country's shitty electricity problem. But I eventually found a copy. I didn't rush to play it either, as I did have a modded 2DS for a while to play Double Cross, and starting the game for a third time really put me off. I just transferred my 3DS save over and shelved the game for a while. A friend also managed to find himself a copy so we could play multiplayer. I'll carry him a bit, and I decided to put some time in to see the game's final boss, Atal'Ghar. God damn was that fight good. I hope they bring her back for future games. I still haven't gotten to Bloodbath Diablos, but I'll get there one day. I was streaming my progress through the game and will return to it eventually. On September 17th, the announcement trailer for Monster Hunter Rise dropped, and goddamn did it look good. It looked like World meets Generations Ultimate, and somehow it's on Switch. Handheld Monster Hunter that I can play local multiplayer with friends again? Sign me the fuck up. Not only that, but we also got the announcement that Stories was getting a sequel, something I'm sure no one expected, and I was now more excited for that over Rise. Let's get back on topic with Rise. With each new trailer, we got to see more of the abilities and monsters. One of the best things was seeing Mizutsune returning. Styles weren't returning. Some of the arts seemed to be returning as switch skills, which was tied to a new system, the wire bug. So we wondered, how will it work if there are no gauges to charge? Another thing that was announced was Apex monsters. No, not that one. Rise's Apex monsters were essentially the deviants from Generations. So now the thought of returning deviants and their gear helped up the excitement. Then the developer diaries started. We got to learn more about the systems, locations, some returning and updated maps, and other stuff. One of the things said was a bit weird though. The game would get its true ending in a title update. Monster Hunter endings aren't exactly that big, as the series isn't big on story, but it did mean the base game wasn't ready at launch. Something as small as a Monster Hunter ending couldn't have been that hard to add before launch. And if the pandemic was such an issue on the game's development, it might have been better to delay the game. But I'm sure I, like most people, figured the game would still be content-full to keep us busy until then, right? Release day comes around. Everyone is excited. Everyone is playing it. Everyone is enjoying the combat. But then the cracks started to show. While gameplay was mostly polished, there were quite a few people that were getting hit with bugs. The worst being you would be locked out of your save if you set some of the deluxe DLC to the action bar. You either had to restart or wait for the fix. Capcom put out a social media warning about it, but continued to sell the DLC pack. Remember, not everyone follows social media for updates on games, so there would be people affected by this and not know what went wrong. That already started souring me on the game. Even the content creators that were playing the game early said everything was fine. They later changed their tune about 2 weeks after launch. Maybe it was part of the NDA to not speak bad about the game. Who knows? But I continued my playthrough. Combat was amazing, but started to feel less like Monster Hunter and more like a regular hack and slash. It was easy to recover and not many monsters would punish you for messing up. And you had enough tools to counter. You could even control monsters with Wyvern Ride to help deal damage to other monsters, or use it to ram them into walls. The game was really easy for a Monster Hunter game, even for someone with below average skill like myself. I ran the Kimura armor all the way to Nawa without feeling like I had to change. Another thing I noticed was the game wasn't sure what it exactly wanted. Like there was changes to make the game faster, such as monsters always being marked on the map, and even keeping longsword charges when you cart, taking away the need to prepare, so you can quickly slay monsters. But they also start you off with lower stats, even after eating. You had to find spitty birds to get buffs, so you essentially control how hard you want the hunt to be. But with the push towards DPS, it just became a chore to do to max your damage output. But even if you ignore the birds, you can demolish everything in your way. Even the flagship Magna Malo was a pushover, especially after the demo version was an absolute beast that really tested you. The game seemed at odds with itself, streamlined everything to remove busy work to push more DPS, but still keep some busy work. So what happens when you beat Nawa before the first title update? You get a cutscene hinting at something big is coming, then the game just stops. Not much else to do but wait or grind out gear. You couldn't even Hunter rank grind, since that wasn't even in the game. How incomplete was this that even Hunter rank wasn't in the game? So I spent my time crafting and upgrading every longsword in the game and charm farming, and then learned that some things mentioned in Dev Diary wasn't the full story. They did mention that crafting and upgrading would require less monster parts to reduce farming, which it did, but what wasn't mentioned was that you need a ton more Zenny. Money was never an issue in most of the old games, but now just upgrading one piece of gear can clear almost 1 million. So now you're gonna have to do money routes to make sure you have enough for future gear. Another letdown was that it was said hunting Apex monsters would get you rewards. Not really, you'd mostly fight them for challenge. The same goes for events, and one of my biggest gripes with the game, events were lackluster for the most part. Rewards weren't even worth getting. No new sets or weapons, mainly stickers and gestures. We later got a few layered sets, even some of the festival ones from World, but that's it, just layered. although the Kuma set was pretty good as it hides your weapon if you use Sword and Shield, and changes the animation of arts and the kunai throw to resemble his moveset in Street Fighter. So where would you get layered sets and pet cosmetics? In the DLC store. God damn, did Rise go overkill with DLC. Don't earn stuff, just pay money. The layered sets weren't even sold as a complete set. You had to buy each piece separately unless you pick up the DLC packs that add a bunch of stuff for one purchase. It sucked because even with the first title update that added dragons into the game like Chameleos and Teostra, the game still wasn't complete. They did fix a shit ton of bugs though, and brought on a few more. Hunter rank grind was finally in the game, but the game didn't store points before this, so when you broke HR cap, you won't see a massive boost. You could have hunted 1,000 monsters and still be HR 8. While Hunter rank wasn't the most important thing, it was still needed to unlock newly added quests, so you gotta grind more. Even then, it felt disjointed when you unlocked those quests, as it was seemingly supposed to unlock earlier, but the game was incomplete. It was held back. But at least we get some challenge now that the dragons are back, right? Not really. Remember how I said the game is easy? Well, not even the dragons were safe from the change. Remember how in quests with Elder Dragons, every other monster would leave the map because they were that devastating to the ecosystem and everything would run in fear. In Rise, they are just treated like every other monster, pretty much pushovers until Crimson Glow Valstrack. We finally got some challenges towards the end of Rise's life cycle with the Apex emergency quests. The Apex monsters returned, powered up, and they could easily one-shot you. Finally something to really test players. And what do you get for overcoming this challenge? Fucking nothing. There was nothing to really keep you coming back to these quests other than getting a faster time. Pretty much everything could be one and done. Unlike previous games that kept you engaged and want you to keep playing, Rise was done with you. You could find ways to get more time out of the game by crafting everything, but it didn't feel like you were truly working towards anything. More so, you were trying to squeeze any drop of enjoyment out of it, and that didn't sit right with me. I expected better from the series, so once I beat the Super Apex Zynoga, I listed my copy for sale. I didn't need that negativity in my life. So what about Sunbreak? I never got it. Most I did was play the demo and again, played really well, but it still seemed DPS focused, with more counters to unleash on monsters. The physical copy was a ripoff as well, repackaged the base game with a code for Sunbreak that expired in a year, and goddamn did they go crazy with more paid DLC. Like the layered weapons were cool, but again, there was almost nothing to earn from actually playing events. From what I did see, they did actually fix some of the problems with Sunbreak, mainly difficulty in endgame, similar to Monster Hunter 4's Guild Quest system. The new and returning monsters seemed great. Hell, they added Espinas to the game, a frontier monster, and those almost never made it over to the main series, aside from Lavasioth and Hypnocotrice. And because this video is so fucking late, Amatsu is now added to the game, a monster I expected to be in base Rise. And from what I've seen, the fight looks great, and even has callbacks to Portable 3rd and Universal Studios Japan. Is that gonna make me get the game? Who knows, maybe when it's on huge discount. And now, the final entry for this video. The game I was most hyped for on Switch, Motherfucking Stories 2. Funny enough, I was actually working on a review for the game a month after it released, but with every video editor I use fucking up, I just scrapped it. But yeah, here is a game I didn't pre-order because I was a bit worried after Rise, and I couldn't get it on release day because of the civil unrest in the country at the time. About a week later, when it was safe, I did manage to pick up a copy. If you played the first game, you know it's at a pretty high bar, and for the most part, Stories 2 did a really good job. There were some issues like the frame rate being rough, dungeon layouts being simple and reused a bunch. Enemy monster HP was boosted to fuck because they wanted you to have a buddy with you at all times. Removed the ability to change your monster's element, and made a horrible choice with how it handled Fatalis. God damn did they do a lot with the game and its story. The monster finishes looked better than ever, and there was even team finishes as well. They even brought back characters from the first game and expanded on their past. Naviru is still in the game, to my dismay.
If you really don't know about donuts, how come you don't go nuts?
Another great thing was we actually got all the updates and DLC this time, so we weren't left with an incomplete game this time around. And its paid DLC was an overkill. It would be hard to go over stuff in the game without spoiling it, but it is a definite must play. And you don't even have to play the first game to enjoy it, so go play it. Or else. Well, it's finally over. Not like I was supposed to release this in January or anything. I know this went from my history with Monster Hunter to a shit on Rise video, but I only complain because I want better from the series. But let's not dwell on it for now. So, what am I doing now since I'm not playing any of the current games? I did start a playthrough of Stories 1 on Twitch, and was streaming my way to Bloodbath Diablos in Generations, but I've taken a break from the series. I did start Rise on Game Pass, because of a friend that was nagging me to play with him, but he dropped out after 2 hunts.
You're gonna hate this.
What?
Guess.
What?
Guess.
Why?
Just guess.
What?
I don't like Monster Hunter.
You don't like Monster Hunter?
No.
I
tried.
I knew this.
I tried.
I downloaded this damn game because of you. I had no interest in coming back to this game because I don't need this negativity. I don't need this negativity in my life. I got rid of this game from my life, and you made me get it again.
I tried for you.
Why for me? I don't like this.
For the next one.
What next one?
For the next one.
For Monster Hunter 6, there's a high chance I'm not getting it based on what they did with this game. I played a bit more with another buddy on his stream, but it's Rise. I got tired of playing through the early game again. So what am I doing now to satisfy my hunting itch? Dragon's Dogma. God fucking damn, I regret not picking this game up sooner and giving it the time to click. And funny enough, the person who recommended me the game was the same guy who got me into Monster Hunter. If you want a cross between a Western RPG, Monster Hunter and Devil May Cry, give the game a chance. It's always on sale. It's like 50 Rand on Steam sales. I just wish it had the content originally planned for it, and I'm really looking forward to its sequel. So here's the thing. I wanted to make this a series of my friend's history with Monster Hunter, starting with said person that got me into the series. He was supposed to be directly after my story, but between me being a piece of garbage and taking my time on this video being longer than I expected, and him being busy with work, I will give him his own episode. In the meantime, I'll get everyone else that is interested in sharing to start working on their parts. Not everyone is an old player, some started with World, and that sparked their love for the series. Hopefully this will be a weekly series, until everyone has their story told. So subscribe to know when their videos go live. If you manage to sit through this entire video, I'm sorry. Tell me your history with Monster Hunter in the comments. I'm sure it'll be better than mine. I'm not good with outros, so I'll see you guys soon. And play Dragon's Dogma. This isn't a request.
廃墟の